the whole FTX situation has just gotten even crazier. And I honestly thought that that was not possible. But a couple of videos and tweets have come out that literally showcase Sam Bankman-Fried's insanity and the absolute mind games and tricks that he's pulled on the traditional investing game. This man is an absolute maniac, and honestly, because of what I've just read, I'm not sure it's going to be stopping here. But for now, let us dive right in and not waste any more time, as he's basically been going on a Twitter rampage. We covered the first section of what he said with the what happened, and then a little bit of an explainer about what he wants to do next, his next steps. And now he added a couple additional parts to it. Why does he do it in these very strange segments? I'm not so sure why he's taking hours upon hours upon hours to write every single piece. Maybe it's to maintain as much attention as possible. I'm not too sure, but there's a lot more crazy stuff we're going to cover in this video. For right now though, guys, make sure you press that like button, as I've been diving on crypto Twitter like a freaking hawk. I've been literally looking at every single major account, what they've tweeted, every single news source, what they've put out, and even guys like Kevin O'Leary, whom believed Sam Bankman-Fried and actually were basically partners of FTX or potentially heavily invested in FTX. Not exactly sure how that ties together. I've been following him like a hawk, and he said a couple of mind-boggling crazy things. So let us continue. Not legal advice, not financial advice. This is all as I remember it, but my memory might be faulty in parts. I'll get to what happened, but for now, let's talk about where we are today. Where we are is, at like button town, so make sure you press that button. To the best of my knowledge, as of post 11/7, with the potential for errors, Alameda had more assets than liabilities, market to market, which is fair value but not liquid. Alameda had margin position on FTX International, which a lot of you guys nicely pointed out in the comment section. I appreciate you all, you're amazing. FTX US had enough to repay all customers, and not everyone necessarily agrees with this. Now, if you press this tweet, you'll notice a lot of different comments with a very funny picture that I do not want to showcase because it's kind of vulgar, but well, basically people are like, how can you say, yeah, it's right there. Let's not leave it around for too long. If you want to, you can pause on that frame, but his opinion basically has no value if he's trying to state facts, but he says that not everyone will agree with this, which then makes all these facts redundant because they're supposed to be facts instead of just a random opinion. Because why would you all of a sudden state that not everybody would agree with your facts? That's kind of strange. My one goal is to do right by customers. I'm contributing what I can to doing so. I'm meeting with in-person with regulators, which is strange, and working with the teams to do what we can for customers. And after that, investors, but first customers. My goal, clean up and focus on transparency, make customers whole. And then he added a couple of new tweets. Let's cover those as well. A few weeks ago, FTX was handling $10 billion a day of volume and billions of transfers. But there was too much leverage, more than I realized. A run on the bank and market crash exhausted liquidity. So what can I try to do? Raise liquidity, make customers whole, and restart. Now, maybe I'll fail, which I'd personally say is the highest probability. If you've gone for too much leverage, that's one thing. But if you've gone for too much leverage and literally lied to everyone, deceived your main investors and basically had some massive gaps on the balance sheet, that's not something that people take lightly. And I don't think FTX could ever get the trust back that they once had, because once a liar, always a liar, basically. At least in this context here, I don't think many people will believe him from here on forward. Maybe I'll fail. Maybe I won't get anything more for customers than was already there. I've certainly failed before. You all know that now all too well. But all I can do is try. I've failed enough for the month. And part of me thinks I might get somewhere, again, if he's going to basically try to get more funds over from Asia, most likely. Because as I said before, a lot of those guys, they think more business-like rather than emotional-like. I know you've all seen this, but here's where things stand today. Roughly speaking, lots of caveats, etc. They've got $8 billion liquid, semi-liquid $5.5 billion, and illiquid $3.5 billion. And yeah, maybe that $9 billion illiquid M2M isn't worth $9 billion plus $1 billion net. OTOH, a month ago, it was worth $18 billion, $10 billion or $1 billion plus net. And he calls this truth and beauty. Again, in terms of abbreviations, as far as I know, this means on the other hand, which kind of showcases how the value has changed. But maybe in finance, this means something that I do not know. That's also possible. I've also been laughing like crazy. I mean, honestly, the whole situation is not so funny, but I've been laughing at a lot of the memes because at the end of the day, people kind of have to make a joke about it because this man is not serious. He's literally trying to make it look like a, oopsie, made a little bit of a mistake, let's go on. And Sam is also in the comment section saying, restart, my brother, in Christ, you're going to jail, my guy. The actual only good thing that could come out of this is if he went to jail for deceiving the people. Now, again, it might be so that his team was deceiving him, but from all the reports and even Binance states that most likely he was deceiving the people. Then again, and remember this very carefully, his crazy connections might get him out of a lot of this stuff. Now, Ben Armstrong, BitBoy, said, there's a push to make Sam Bankman-Fried look like he made mistakes. This case is fraud by technology. Do not let them bury the whole real story. Crypto fraud, tax fraud, counterfeiting, RICO charges, tax evasion, racketeering, retweet. This is the most important story ever in crypto. Don't blow it. Don't forget wire fraud. That's how the feds get everyone. It's kind of true. And again, if you're wondering what this tweet right here is about, literally a guy who stole $8 billion of your money is asking for another shot. It's about the fact that he basically is now asking in those threads by like, hey, I'm trying to raise more money. I'm trying to make it up to all you customers here. And in the reality, if you're asking why has he not been arrested just quite yet, again, his connections and take a look. Anyone else confused as to why Sam Bankman-Fried has not been arrested yet? Let's look at why. Gary Gensler worked for his girlfriend's dad, whom was the CEO of one of his firms, Alameda in this sense, who basically made the whole gap in the funds. Sam Bankman-Fried's dad shaped legislation fit Senator Warren. He's the number 2 donor to Joe Biden, who stole customer funds, of course, aka your money. Laundered money to Ukraine for midterms, which is a very, very, very deep story that I don't want to get into today, but BitBoy is very outspoken about that one. But take a look at this, for example, one of his tweets. Again, I do not want to get too much into the whole Ukraine debacle, even though it's a very, very big story. And the reason I don't want to is because I just cannot confirm it. I can speculate here about why the money was moved around FTX and around all the politics, but since I cannot confirm everything, I want to keep it on the back end, even though it might actually make a lot of sense to include it because it might make things more understandable as to why all the shenanigans is going on. Again, I try to stick with all the things that we can kind of confirm and that I know for sure, and that I know will not really get ourselves in trouble with if we basically spilled too much crazy information. Again, make sure you guys press that like button. Let's go. Now, Brian Armstrong said Twitter has broken just about every piece of this FTX story using blockchain analytics, while New York Times is writing puff pieces on a criminal. Feels like a turning point for citizen journalism and loss of trust in mainstream media. And honestly, I believe that the same is going on in the Ripple versus SEC lawsuit. Zach XBT calls it based, but the Daily Mail and whatnot, they're pretty slow with covering all these pieces, to be honest with you. And even though the Daily Mail has been doing a pretty good job and right now states that the FBI is apparently planning to extradite Sam Bankman-Fried as crypto contagion from FTX collapse spreads to $20 billion BlockFi, and things are basically looking good in that sense. It's just that a lot of the mainstream media is not covering it the way that we expected them to. And again, part of this comes back into all his connections and the fact, like I just stated as well, that they want to get things confirmed. We personally think, hey, the blockchain does not lie. It's confirmed. It's the truth. It's strange. Cover it. A lot of the mainstream media says, well, let's wait for a spokesperson. But the FTX spokespersons are kind of garbage. And so CZ said, so I asked an FT journalist, why was the coverage on Sam Bankman-Fried like that? Why did you guys write it like that? And he said, well, I don't know. It wasn't me. And the way I always describe that is, well, if you ask any of these sources who exactly decided it should be this way, they all will say, I don't know, I didn't decide that. It was somebody else, who said we should do it that way. Nobody ever takes responsibility, but they all go along with it because it pays. Now, I think those were the most important pieces for right now. There's a whole additional story that I want to cover in another update later today though. So guys, what I recommend you all to do is make sure you subscribe to the channel for all these crazy news updates. Right now, I'm going to research a specific situation that mostly involves Kevin O'Leary and his role in all of this, as he's basically been a little bit of a scapegoat over the last couple of days, but he's basically has so much faith in Sam Bankman-Fried that makes me think about what's going on in the background and how things are moving. It really is quite strange. On an opposite side, there's also a couple of new new updates on the whole Luna and the Luna Foundation Guard and UST situation. I'm not so sure if you guys are interested in updates on that front or not, but since we're talking about scams and scammers, I thought it would definitely be right to also talk about the whole Luna situation. But for right now, let's quickly conclude. Sam Bankman-Fried is trying to get a second chance. He basically says he wants to try and get more money to pay people back, which doesn't make sense because, well, is that only because they have so much illiquid funds? He's also stating numbers about his funds that we cannot really verify because we thought that the number were way lower in terms of actual liquid assets. The way he's describing it, they have a lot of money to pay people back, but the way that everybody researched it, they really don't. He's apparently going to get extradited to the US. Again, take it with a grain of salt as he has many connections. He might not actually ever end up there. And even if he does, that does not mean he'll actually go to jail because of a couple of different parts. First of all, it is just a Chapter 11 bankruptcy, meaning they're just going to restructure the company as of this point. And you guys got to understand this properly. The moment he's charged, even then, things will actually take a pretty significant amount of time before they really get to the point of him being in prison, all right? First, he's going to maybe be arrested for maybe a day or so like we saw in the Bahamas. Then he's most likely able to go back home for a little bit unless he's a flight risk, which he might be, depending again on whether or not the inside job stole all the money. But even that is going to take months and months and months to probably figure out. It's also funny that nobody's paying attention to the whole, I'd say, Ukraine ordeal, but also the whole hack ordeal, you know, the $400 million hack. Nobody seems to care about that, even though it was a very big deal. If you think about it, it doesn't really make a lot of sense that one of the biggest crypto exchanges in the world got hacked for only a couple $100 million and people are playing it off. Was that a very big scheme as well? It's all so difficult to say, but it's all so freaking crazy, guys. It's all so wacky, wacky, wacky. So later today, I'll catch you guys with another update because things are juicy. But that was it for right now, guys. Make sure you press the like button and subscribe. See you guys later in another update.